So, hi there from Dr. Pod's parlor today. It's Larry Podsobinski live again, and today for a little video talk here, we have my esteemed guest, Susan Culbertson, who if you read my book, read about, she's wrote part inclusion in the third edition, and worked at the hospital when I was last there 25 years ago, and her husband Michael, and we're going to talk about this being 25-year anniversary that I haven't had no relapses or been back to the hospital or any question of it, which is highly unusual, I understand. Turn over to Susan.
Highly unusual and
Highly.
amazing. And I just have to tell you, Larry, I am so impressed with your 25 years. We had to stop and get a balloon just to get into the party mode. So I'll set that right here.
Thank you.
I I cannot tell you the difference when I first met you and now. And the one thing that I couldn't get over when I first met you was not only did you say and think that you were John Lennon, reincarnated, you look like John Lennon. And not reincarnated, you look like John Lennon.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I believe I told you the story one time where we were going into a court hearing. You had just come back into the hospital as our guest, and
Yeah.
you had a court hearing with our county judge that did the court hearings.
Right.
And I went over to him as he entered the makeshift courtroom that we had at the hospital. And he was getting ready to start, and I said, "Oh, Judge, there's something I want to tell you before they bring the next person in. I just want you to know that this patient um, has paranoid schizophrenia, and he is under the delusion that he is John Lennon, and that he actually really looks like John Lennon. And I just wanted you to know, so when he walked in, you wouldn't be surprised." And he was in a hurry to get started.
Right.
I'm sure he had to get back to his courthouse.
Right.
And he said, okay, and just kind of brushed me off.
Yeah.
So I went over and sat down in my chair where I attended the court hearings in case the judge had any questions.
Right.
I would just be available. And when you walked through the door, I heard the judge say, "Oh my God." And I could tell from his face he was just shocked that you look like John Lennon.
Well, I thought I was not the reincarnate, but the transmigrant, which is
That's right.
and the soul change
That's
while
true.
you're with somebody who's an adult and grown up, and
Yeah.
the Buddhist lore goes they have to be suicidal and they have to be a Buddhist priest coming back for a mission, and that you could make that academic philosophic argument that that's what went on and it was all does that bother me in the everyday enter my life what's the way I live today? I mean,
No.
the storytelling maybe, but that's about all. You know what I mean?
Right.
But,
Right. Your transmigration.
well, you also corroborated in the part you put in my book that you said there was Secret Service, CIA, and FBI involvement,
Oh yes.
and it was up to you to your office to
Yes.
have contact with.
Correct. I had the FBI. Now tells you how old I am. I had a Rolodex. I didn't have an iPhone.
Right,
with-
right. Of course,
with
I don't
my
have an
addresses in
iPhone.
it. I had a Rolodex that had the FBI's phone number and the local FBI guy that I called whenever I needed, and it was many times about you.
Many times. I wasn't the only one in the hospital, but I was the
No.
most infamous one that
You
area
were.
of the
Yes, you
hospital.
were.
I mean,
Yes, you were.
honestly.
You
Well,
were.
you know,
And it was interesting, though. Let me interrupt you just for a
Sure.
second. It was interesting to talk to you about the FBI because when they did come to see you, what I remember you wanted to talk to them about, you were trying to help them. It wasn't like you were trying to really threaten anybody.
Yeah,
It was
right.
like you were
It was a
trying
mission.
Yeah.
It was like the story in the book that
Yeah.
all of the mission of the actual real John Lennon, who I was supposed to be,
Right.
deluded to be. I
Right.
mean, that I was trained before I was killed as John Lennon
Right.
in Central Park by the CIA for covert activities to transcend the grave and come back and
Right.
report back to them what I saw. And
Right.
that was reality to me at the time for like
Right.
7 or 8 years. I mean,
Oh,
it was very odd.
Larry, there's one thing that I did want to talk about. I brought your first book with me
Oh, okay.
because I want you to sign this one. You signed the second edition.
Okay.
But I don't. But what I wanted to do was, in case there's any therapists watching, so they know that you signed a release of information.
Oh,
For
yeah.
me to divulge your information.
Oh, yeah, sure. Make your
About you
disclaimer then, or
in your
whatever you
book.
want to make.
Yeah. And I have one for the video today, and we will do the video.
Sign it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, then you're
Or do
legit
you want
on.
to sign it now?
Well,
This
you
just
got a
says
pen?
it.
I don't. Do I have a
Yeah,
pen?
I've got a pen right
should have
here.
a pen.
Yeah. Oh, you got a pen
I
too?
have a pen.
And one of
Well,
your
you want me to
20
sign?
pockets right down there.
That's right.
Now, this is for your book up here and down here. Because I had talked to the Ohio Social Work Board
Yeah.
about your book, and they gave me permission.
I wondered if you were going to mention that any particular
Yeah.
permission you had to do this today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. So I just wrote the video right on here so
Yeah.
that I have the same. And do you want to take time to think about signing my book?
Oh, you want me to sign
You want
this?
to do it on the video?
I have that special pen that Pat Washburn. Do you want to tell who he was?
Oh, yes.
He
Pat
he
Washburn.
sent me this pen for my book signing.
He was a lovely friend to Larry. He was the client's rights officer for the state of Ohio. And
meeting?
I don't know. You may have it one of the conferences, probably. Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
sounds big.
yeah. So.
That is a nice pen.
Well, he said it was root beer acrylic. He went to when he got the newspaper article, not to my book signing.
This looks like a Bexley pen.
He went to the immediate first jewelry store he could walk to from the State Tower and bought that and had it shipped to me overnight for my book signing the next
Did
day.
he really?
Yeah.
How
Very nice, young
wonderful.
man.
So I keep it as a special
What is
pen.
Pat doing now?
He
He
passed
passed,
away.
didn't he?
He passed away.
Yeah, he passed.
Heart attack on his honeymoon.
Oh
Is
my
it
God,
really?
no.
Horror story. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So this is the first edition. You have a
That's the
second.
first
You have a
edition.
second and a third
Yes.
edition,
Yes,
and they're all signed.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the only one I didn't have signed. So thank you. Pat was a lovely man. He was, and if there was something a client needed, he would go until he dropped to help them.
Really?
He would go stir things up or do whatever he had to do. And if he told somebody he was going to do something, the trust was there. People knew that he was going to do it.
Very nice.
And we had phones in the hospital where people like Larry or others could make the 1-800 call.
Yeah.
Because it was 1-800. So thank you so much. Read it to me.
It says to Susan Culbertson, thanks for all your help over the years. The best regards, Larry J. Podsobinski.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you. I
You're
love
welcome,
this.
Susan.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I wouldn't have been here if it weren't for people like you, and not just you at the hospital either. There are other people
Yes.
who are older, like more my age now, that worked there then,
Right,
and
yeah.
that I found that by their nature and burbling with me once I got medicated and was restored to sanity. The Thursday before Thanksgiving of 2019 will make 25 years. It's close to that Thursday before Thanksgiving, the medication took a hold, and I looked over my shoulder at the patient's payphone room, and I said, "I've been calling who this time? Besides the Secret Service and the CIA?" I mean, it happened before, yeah.
It was always, like I said, it was always for a good purpose. You were wanting to
help them more understand the realm of the dead and UFO
Right.
technology and all
Right.
that stuff. They used to.
Yeah.
So UFOs out on the hill out back, because that looked like they'd land out there.
Yeah,
I mean,
I remember.
Wasn't easy educating them, was it?
no, it wasn't easy educating them. But some of the things they said to me was, like the one, I know her name, but I didn't catch his name when she told me hers, but their names and the CIA who was assigned to me, and I was assigned to their office only. Don't go any other numbers. They're just on number only. That was the problem with them. I'm sorry about that, but I mean, but I haven't done that since. But she told me one time. She said, "You know what your IQ is?" I said, "Yeah, I know what my IQ is." And she asked me, and I told her just like 3 or 4 different IQs that they graphed. You know, I mean, I took one of those kind of tests. You know,
Yeah.
and so she said, "Well, we don't think that's right, man. I mean, you're right off the chart. You're right off the chart. You're above the highest IQ. You're above the highest of the chart. You know, so UFO diagrams in the book. You know, I mean, I'm really fond of that their quantum magnetic or gravitational drive.
Yeah, right.
That word, neologism in psychiatry,
Yeah, right.
but the words put together, I mean, that make up that word are an interesting intellectual idea.
Yeah.
So it's a good read. I mean,
It
the
is a
part
good read.
the part that everybody seems to agree with, tell me that they like the best is how I described in the first person as things occurred to me as reality, what the delusions and hallucinations actually were and going on around me as if they were reality. You know, the cameras on me from the fourth dimension where they were spying and I couldn't knock them out; they were invisible, and so they spied on me from cameras in the ceilings up there, you know, and so it was. So, and the problem this poses for society today is, I guess it's solvable by taking somebody to a hospital and doing a drug test, but I understand meth, and that's what they call meth, that drug causes paranoia to the point of hallucinations of seeing people in the attic and cameras on the ceiling and just from what I come to understand from people who know about that and from what a neighbor here in the building at one point. But so that must confuse people as to what's really mental illness at work and what's possibly just scourge drug addiction, you know, I mean. So that's a problem for society to deal with. The one thing I sense today being that it's come to my attention, the one mimics the other.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Yeah.
So a lot of serious issues with this kind of illness. Yeah, and you need help for it. You need to accept help, and when help is found that works, then you just need to just stay the course. And that's what I was out to prove 25 years ago. That on medication that works, I can go the rest of my life without having a relapse. As my own psychiatrist of 2019 and a quarter years till she moved on, that I saw her just 2 months ago, said to me that what did she say? She said she said, "I'm better than most people get with this illness, and for a long time I've been well." And she said, "You're out of the grip of the schizophrenia, and you know how to stay out of the grip. So keep doing what you're doing." So that tells me the words that I read about a dozen years ago, describing a state of achievable in the illness as known to clinicians as weller than well, quote unquote. And so at 25 years the doctor's words that this is unusual to be well this long makes me the weller and well status. I can see another 25 years. I'm just 61 years old. So if I make it to 86, that would be 50 years, and I'll still be out of the hospital because I made that commitment in Common Pleas Court in the county seat here to take my medication. And those guys in the big, heavy, expensive suits were the Secret Service, the CIA, and the FBI. I'm not stupid. I'm sorry I came to your attention, but peace. But that won't happen again. Another 50 years, 25 years go by, and no more problem for me. I
Well,
mean,
and the other thing, Larry, you tried so many medications that
yeah,
didn't work, that
right.
helped a little, but then the side effects were so awful that you would end up quit taking it because a lot of times because of the side effects. And what people need to know is keep trying different medications.
Different combinations or whatever you have to get medicated to the point where you have a clear sense about what you're doing and what reality is around you, and there is no superimposition of psychosis on it by hallucination. That's two different things, states of understanding the nature of reality. Uh, you can get philosophical from there, but big words and nobody understands. But
Well, the thing that was the most miraculous with your cure was the new medication that you fought to be able to try. Pat Washburn, the client's advocate, helped you get that medication because it was expensive and they didn't want to pay for it, but you forced the issue and the judge ordered it. So sometimes you have to be a little bold and
But you have to
Go for
advocate.
what
You have
you
to
want.
advocate for yourself. Yeah.
Weren't you the one that asked for that specific medication?
Right, they were-
Because you researched. Yeah, and I probably should say, I'm retired from mental health from 43 years in it. So the fact that you've done this is just so damn remarkable that it needs to be celebrated.
Yes.
Because what you've done that impresses me so much is that you've taken responsibility for your own recovery, and you've come back just out of dogged persistence, and
Yeah.
and
That's
and
what it was.
you're able to be an advocate for yourself, and you figured out who to ask for help, and what your rights are, and you've gone after them, and you make people nervous as hell, which I love.
Well, thank you, Michael.
And
No, really,
speaking of
you're to be
celebrating-
admired.
Oh, well,
You are to be
celebrate.
Speaking
admired.
of celebrating, oh, I'm sorry, you're vaping.
Handing me something here
Yes,
to open.
congratulations.
Something to open. Well, so thank you, Susan. They surprised me to no end.
There's
How
a couple of
kind
things
you
in
are.
there. There's one from Michael and there's one from me. I believe that's
I
Michael.
know you write a lot. Do you journal? I have to.
Michael thought you might like a new journal to journal with.
Journal to journal. Oh, this is cool.
Yeah. And you can read the letter that he wrote you on the front of it.
Okay.
Or I can read it to you later because it may be illegible.
I think I can read that. I just need my other glasses to definitely do it for sure.
But yeah, I find journaling is one of the healthiest things I can.
Well, yeah,
I can do.
I during that, but I don't really want to mention the NH withdrawal in March.
Mhm.
I started writing some things. There was a journal that I never went back to, but I started typing about what happened.
Yeah, for me, writing is a whole different thing than typing. It's,
Can you get that out?
It's in there. Congratulations, 25 years of wellness and joy. Larry Podsobinski, author of In the Grip of Paranoid Schizophrenia, Susan Culbertson, 2019. Well, thank you, Susan.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you for all your amazing recovery. I'm just so impressed with you.
Well, I wouldn't have it any other way. The way I look at it is that in the 1970s, what I call my Tampa years,
Uh-huh.
I studied philosophy as a young adult, and that gave me a large idea of ethics and things like that, and responsibility. And so when I was in court, and I made that commitment with those Secret Service there and all that, I take that not very lightly at all. I just being who I was raised, the condition, educated to be, the education I was getting
Uh-huh.
was that. Congratulations on 25 years of wellness, 25 amazing years. It has been rewarding to watch your growth and progresses in healing from an unbelievably believable diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia. You have taken charge of your life in a multitude of ways, socially, nutritionally, financially, spiritually, physically, and mentally. The next 25 years should be a piece of cake after the past. That's 25. Can't wait to see what you achieve next. Maybe just slow down and rest a bit. Yeah, that's a good idea. But always best wishes, Susan. Thank you. Bless you, Susan.
You're
You're so kind.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're so
I'm
kind.
so-
maybe you'll just write music next 25
Yeah, maybe
years.
you'll
you
write
know?
music.
Well, maybe you'll write novels. Who the hell knows?
Well, I got this other book I'm working on. It wasn't going the way it was going, but I kind of don't want to give the title out, but since it's not going the way I want it to go, there's a part I want to put in there as like a fancy chapter, piece of writing called "The Hunchback of Castle Sabine." This goes to my scoliosis diagnosis, which
Right.
is called hunchback in old age language.
Yeah, right.
And the Castle Sabine was referred to me by relatives in Poland 4 Novembers ago. It's in ruins today, but our family all goes back to around that castle in the 1300s.
Wow.
That's
So
great.
it's a little fantasy story based on
Yeah.
That's
psychotic.
great.
That's
Yeah,
great.
That's
piece
great,
of that.
man.
So
Well,
May
yeah.
I ask you a question that might fit into what you're talking about? when you started taking the new medication that you fought to get, you were lucid, totally lucid in 48 hours.
Yeah, right.
What was that like inside your head from coming
Well,
out that fast?
it seemed to be unconscious to me. It was conscious, but it was that I wanted this second generation antipsychotic I'd waited for like 15 years for, 20 years.
Right.
And so I knew that's what it was intellectually in my head. I understood that, but what it would do to me as a person, I didn't understand. It was like an inner drive from my core of my being that I just knew I needed that. It's the same reason schizophrenics pick up cigarette butts and smoke them off the sidewalk
Right,
because
right,
innately they know their brain knows they need that.
right,
That's why I'm using this nicotine now.
right.
But
And I know that's true about not just you as a schizophrenic, but other schizophrenic persons that have schizophrenia have told me that nicotine calms them.
well, it helps me focus and keep remember what I'm trying to think and keep in place in my mind while something else is happening.
See, that's what I like about you, is I can get like chunks of things uh, because I've tried to educate myself by talking to clients over the years, and what I find with you is you're so detailed with your answers back to me.
Well, thank you, Susan.
Yeah, well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're a good
Welcome.
educator, and so it helps you focus and concentrate more, so you can express your ideas better. Is that a good way of saying that, or?
Yeah, the wording, the nomenclature, the wording, the language of things that I talk about gets quasi what the average person can understand. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
but I try to. And in writing the book, I try. It's supposed to be an easy read. Everybody tells me, and what people love the most is how I described it, what goes on in the psychotic conspiracy I was involved in. But but other than being in the book, and I don't even know what it says. Or I remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't have started writing that when I did in 1997, I would have never remembered all that.
I know. It's good that you wrote it when you did.
Yeah.
But the thing that I really like is not only for persons that have a mental illness that you're able to educate them about hanging in with trying medication when you find something's working, keep taking your medication so that you stay healthy.
Right.
But I think also your book is great for families, because families really have a hard time understanding when they see their family member hallucinating or having delusions or hallucinations. Your book, I think, is so rich in explaining that I think it's a great book for families. And do you know if it was ever marketed towards family members?
It's never been marketed because I am listed as the publisher,
Mm-hmm.
and so I own all the property and intellectual rights to it. But
So maybe YouTube is the place.
well, that's where I put these videos about the book and where this one's going to go. So it's just I talk about the book. Maybe I'm giving away too much to the story. People don't want to buy it. That's not selling anything.
Well, have you told people how to find it and where to buy it?
Well, there's been a few newspaper articles, but other than that, I've never tried to promote the book because it costs money, and I'm not rolling in that.
On YouTube, have you ever
Tried to.
given the name of it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do that. There's a lot of videos
Okay.
that have talked about the book and what was coming in the third edition,
Okay.
and yeah. So a lot of that. I read that Dr. Andronic's foreword on YouTube.
Any edition, I think, is great. You know, I think you're a lot more organized than the second edition.
In the third, yeah.
In the third.
There was just too much other peripheral information to the actual story that wasn't part of the story that had to come out.
But that's okay. I think you had to do this first edition to get to the second and third.
Right. It was all an evolutionary metamorphosis type thing to go through, being, from that first realization, looking over my shoulder to be 25 years later. It took a lot of strategizing and composure in the moment, and all of my medication helps me do that. So I just take it because that's the way I have to function.
Yeah.
It's no big deal for me, and I don't see what the big deal is for anybody who supposed to relapse every few years, that you could make 25 years too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, well,
Well,
that's
Did
our,
you?
that's our, we have reservations to take you out to dinner.
well, this is lovely. Now isn't it? And so thank you
Oh, you're
again
welcome.
for coming and dropping in my
You're
parlor.
welcome. Thank
Yeah.
you for inviting us. It
You're
was
welcome.
lovely.
Thank you.
I'm just so happy for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah,
this
man.
entirely.
Congratulations.
Oh, cool. So I'm gonna stop the video now and peace and love out there, and talk to you next time, whenever, whatever, from here. Bye bye.